Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explainer series. I am Kushagra Goel and I hope all of you attended the mock test that was organized by Law Prep Tutorial as Sagar sir highlighted. Above 4,000 candidates appeared in the first mock test, so I hope that went well and you have been able to analyze yourself and start your strategy of how to improve yourselves so that you can realize your dream of getting into law schools across the country. All right. So on that note, yesterday I had put up another question: what is the limitation in sessions of parliament? And we have another editorial that talks about how parliament's role is diminishing. All right, so we'll talk about more importance of parliament then. It is always great that you all engage. See, apart from understanding application based questions, general understanding and provisions also, which is more factual knowledge of the constitution, those are two segments within this each heading. All right, so whenever you're preparing for an examination, conceptual understanding and the formative understanding of it becomes equally relevant, so that you are prepared for both kind of questions, formative one and conceptual ones. All right, you are not missing out on anything, so make sure that you prepare for each topic in that manner only. All right, along with this, there was another question regarding the what is this inquiry that was done before appointment of Justice N.V. Ramana is the next CJI, and what were the allegations. So I will be discussing that in the editorial today. All right, so stay tuned for that. On that note, let's begin with today's newspaper. So on the front page, there is update from electoral bond scheme. So there was a petition for stay of electoral bonds. The Supreme Court has rejected this petition. All right, it has stated that there are enough safeguards in the electoral bond scheme to not call for its stay. All right, so addressing the concerns about anonymity of buyers, the Supreme Court has stated the scheme provides anonymity but ensures everything happens through banking channels. So because there is banking channels that is used, the anonymity or the veil of secrecy can be uncovered. All right, then apart from that, corporate houses can finance political parties. This can be reflected who is financing whom by calling out or seeing the annual submissions that each company makes. All right, so that part can also be known. Can foreign companies or corporates get influence into Indian democracy? No, because electoral bonds can only be purchased by Indian companies. Now, regarding how it can be repurchased, the court has stated that, see, it does not make sense for someone to use their white money and get black money instead, and therefore this is an absurd notion. The court has not discounted this possibility, but it has called for this not being rational enough, and why would anyone want to do it? All right, so it is on these grounds the court has held that there is no reason to stay it. This does not mean this judgment has no bearing on the overall validity of electoral bonds itself, but it gives an indication that court is unlikely to go against the bonds itself because it has continuously declined to stay them. All right, so this is the one judgment regarding electoral bonds. The scheme of electoral bonds is fairly simple. Bonds are issued by State Bank of India. A company or a person can go and buy the bond from the bank. All right, will deposit the money to the bank and then go and give a particular bond to whichever political party he or she wants to give. Then that political party can go to the bank and encash the electoral bond and receive money. How? So because there is limitation on spending of candidates and not on political parties have no upper limit of how much money they can use and spend. All right, and the only thing is they don't have to disclose which person gave them this much amount of donation through these electoral bonds. So this is what is not transparent about electoral bonds. So further we'll discuss this. So stay tuned for this, how the court has stated how this veil of secrecy can be disclosed. So I'll be discussing that part later on. All right, moving on, apart from that, the court also gave us, Supreme Court revoked the judgment of NCLAT and removed Cyrus Mistry from Tata Sons board and held there was no oppression. When there is a minority shareholder in a company, they can claim that majority shareholders are acting against their interest. It is this claim that Cyrus Mistry has brought in versus Tata Sons Trust. This claim of oppression and mismanaged by majority shareholders vis-a-vis minority shareholders is what the Supreme Court has rejected in the case. All right. So shareholding as a concept is something that you need to be aware of. Then yesterday, Prime Minister Modi was in Bangladesh and he paid tributes to the 1971 war martyrs who participated in the Bangladesh Liberation War, marking the 50th independence of Bangladesh. All right, on that occasion. Then moving on to other national news, advertisements, and then how COVID cases are rising and we need to take precautions. Maharashtra has hit new peak. There is speculation about whether lockdown will be imposed or not. All right, so all those things aside, moving on to the editorial section. All right, so the main editorial talks about how Parliament's role has been diminishing in India democracy. India is a parliamentary democracy and not an executive democracy. But this editorial lists out how India's parliament scope is reducing. All right. So 2-3 concepts. One, the amount of time the parliament has met, the number of debates the parliament has led on different bills that have been introduced, the number of the time it has dedicated for scrutinizing the budget of how money of India will be spent by the executive, and lastly, the overall administration of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So in terms of attendance, 2020 was the year with the lowest number of sittings of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, which was 34 and 33 days out of 365 days. In a parliamentary democracy, the parliament sat for only 33 and 34 days. Along with this, the parliament did not conduct any discussion on almost 13 bills that were passed in the recent session of the Parliament. All right. Along with this, the second part, how are bills scrutinized? So one is debate, that parliamentarians debate in the House, and the second is standing committees. Overall, sending or consulting House panels has also reduced. All right. That from the latest Lok Sabha has only sent 11% of the bills to standing committees or House panels. The previous one had sent only 16% of them, in comparison to the ones that preceded them, wherein 60 and 71% of the bills were discussed by House panels and then brought in the House for discussion. All right. Along with this, another thing that is also happening in Parliament is regarding criteria for marking bills as money bills. All right. There is no clarity on how which bill can be decided as a money bill or not. This power of demarcation is given solely to the Speaker, who is also a member of the government usually. All right. It is in this light that recently more and more bills have been classified as money bills. What does a bill's classification as money bill does? It reduces the scrutiny that Rajya Sabha can have on a bill. All right. So that, because Rajya Sabha has no power to make amendments or vote on such a bill, it gives the government or the executive far more power in terms of that. All right. Then apart from this is also the percentage of things that the budget has been scrutinized on. So the standard is that whenever a budget is proposed, everything should be voted upon by the House. How much money is being given to each ministry and why it is being given, all of that needs to be independently voted on by the Lok Sabha. However, in last 15 years or so, 70 to almost 100% of the bills or expenditure of each ministry is approved by the Lok Sabha without even discussing it. In the current union budget, only 3 ministries' expenditure was voted upon by the Lok Sabha. Apart from that, everything else was approved by the House in entirety. So this is how the House overall scrutiny of the executive is reducing through these mechanisms. And secondly, on administrative level also, the Lok Sabha currently has not appointed a deputy speaker. This became prominent right now because Om Birla, the current speaker of Lok Sabha, was sick and he was not able to discharge his functions as speaker, and because there is no deputy speaker, a senior member of the house was deputized to do the work. This is directly in contrast to the Article 93 of the Constitution, which calls for a deputy speaker of the house along with the speaker of the house who will work for Lok Sabha. They are officers of the Lok Sabha. So that appointment has also not been done till now. Alright, so this editorial lists out how India's parliamentary democracy, within which parliament's role is reducing further and further. Alright, then on the left hand side, in-house secrets. Alright, so whenever there are any allegations against any judge, the Supreme Court is supposed to conduct an internal inquiry. Along with this, whenever the CJI is supposed to demit office and is going to nominate the next or the successor to him, an internal inquiry is conducted by the Supreme Court for the benefit of CJI whether the suggested person is fit enough to be in office. Alright, but in a 2003 judgment, this was held that this details of this inquiry are confidential and only for the purpose of CJI and not for public. It is in this light that this provision is being criticized for, that when there are allegations that are related to a public issue. What are the allegations that were against Justice N.V. Ramana? That his or because of him and his influence on the judges of Andhra Pradesh High Court, the Andhra Pradesh High Court was hostile towards the current Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh and favoured his political opponents. The court has found nothing of such sort in its inquiry. However, on what grounds has it formed? What were the details of the report? All of that has remained confidential. It is in light of this that the editorial calls that this clause of confidentiality should be reconsidered by the Supreme Court because it affects the overall trust of people, and transparency is a norm for democracy. Alright, so that is all that it has in this controversy. Then secondly, Deadly Trail. In past 5 months of the YouTube series only, we have had multiple editorials discussing fire safety in India and the accidents that have taken place because of lax fire safety norms in Indian buildings and specifically in Indian hospitals, which has led to death of people. And this editorial is in light of that, following up on that only, and why in general Indians need to be more aware of all of this. Alright, then moving on, the second editorial here talks about elections in Israel. Alright, Israel had its 4th election in 2 years. Alright, so Israel does not have a constitution, it has a set of basic laws, but the structure of democracy in Israel is of proportional representation. Alright, so each party is given seats based on the vote share they receive, and you need to receive at least 3.5% of vote to get at least one seat in the house. It is in light of this that recently in elections no party has been able to get a full majority in the house, and coalitions have been formed based on needs. Alright, so that is first thing. These coalitions have not been sustainable, and therefore numerous elections have been called again and again because no one is able to have a majority. Now secondly, why has Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not given up power and has continuously called for elections again and again? The reason is a loophole in the law. In Indian constitution, the immunity from arrest is only provided to President and Vice President. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 42nd Amendment had made a change and had brought in immunity for the Prime Minister. But 44th Amendment overturned this decision and Indian Prime Minister enjoys no such immunity. But in Israel, as long as you are prime minister, whatever be allegations against you, nothing can be done as long as you hold power. Cases of breach of trust, corruption, and bribery are alleged against the current Prime Minister, that is Benjamin Netanyahu. And therefore, it becomes important for him to retain the seat of Prime Ministership as long as he does not want charges against him to be investigated. This has led him to have opportunist coalitions in the country. The editorial then lists out why this has overall created a division in the Israeli society. And the three major threats that are facing Israel, two of them are foreign, which is Iran's nuclearization and Hezbollah war, or the violence from Hezbollah on the north. The third one is internal disintegration of the Israeli society. What is this? That already there is disintegration of society on the lines of civil rights vis-a-vis Palestinians and Israelis, and along with this, how the politics of Israel has become more opportunistic, corrupt, and not for people. And therefore, strong countries or strong democracies are only those which have a social cohesion, common values, and inner capacity for dialogue and compromise. Once this is lost in a democracy, it is always there are high social tensions and overall disintegration of the society takes place. Israel's overall GDP HDI is high in comparison to countries around it in the region. However, the political non-consensus in the country risks it from going downward spiral. All right, so this is something that happened in Iran, this is something happened in Iraq, this is something that happened in Syria. Similarly, this was the pattern in Lebanon, Egypt. All of these countries, as democracy faded further and further, the social coalition in the society disintegrated, and we can now see the development standards in these countries have fallen further and further. All right, it is in the beauty of democracy only that Bangladesh, after it has been out of military coups from 1990s, has grown exponentially in the past 30 years for sustained democracy. So democracy in the long term is the most sustainable mechanism for growth, is what this editorial lists out for us. For you all, proportional representation, 3.5% minimum vote for each party to get at least one seat, and how Prime Minister is given immunity in Israel has led Benjamin Netanyahu to kept hold of the position of Prime Minister and led to social disintegration of Israel. All right. Then moving on the other national news, more from election side, nothing of real note for us. All right. Then moving on, there is one controversy that is the Madras High Court discussing, which relates to right to privacy vis-a-vis Aadhaar details. Aadhaar users, different registered voters in Pondicherry, have been receiving SMS regarding polls despite them never registering for the Bharatiya Janata Party. So, based on a PIL that the Madras High Court is hearing, it is alleged that details from their Aadhaar database, that is their mobile numbers, were leaked to one political party, that is the BJP, which has given them an edge of having details of all the voters that are registered and their details, something they never consented to. Your data can never be shared under Aadhaar unless you have consented to sharing of it. And it is in light of this that Madras High Court have called for steps that Election Commission and the UDHAI has taken against this leakage. One, explain how it happened, did it happen, if it happened, how could it happen, and secondly, when a violation has been conducted by one political party, what are the steps that the Election Commission is taking to prevent that, or what punishment has it held for those who have violated this. If a political party has utilized or hacked into data or shared or used data of people without their consent. So this is first real case of right to privacy vis-a-vis Aadhaar and non-consent for sharing of data. Alright, so we need to see how the court decides on it. Alright, the next hearing of the case is on March 31st. and then Election Commission and the UIDAI will give out details of the steps they have taken against this. All right, so we need to wait for March 31st hearing to see. All right, Article 21, Justice Puttaswamy's judgment calls for right to privacy as a fundamental right, and Aadhaar data is private data, and non-consensual sharing of it is non-permissible or a violation of your fundamental rights. All right, then moving on the left hand side, no iron curtains around election bond. This is further discussion regarding the electoral bonds. The court has stated that there is a mechanism of match the following through which you can determine which party has received funding from which corporation. How? One, political parties give out disclosure of how much money they take in electoral bonds, how much money they have received, and we can all, so each company has to give out details of its expenditure to the registrar of companies. All right, so if we go and find details of each company who has spent on electoral bonds, we can do a match the following and find out which company has done this. All right, however, there is no direct details. Political parties are not supposed, they only give out cumulative data. So let's say a party received 60 crores, the other received 40 crores, but there is no division of how much money was given out by which company in its aggregate data of 60 or 40 crore. So this match the following is possible, that which are the corporates who are giving out money in electoral bonds, but to which party they are giving or supporting for which policy is not clear even from match the following data. All right, so that is what the court has held, that this veil of secrecy can be lifted by mere match the following, and therefore has held that these electoral bonds should not be stayed. All right, then moving on the international news. All right, so more violent, there were violent protests by fundamentalist groups in Bangladesh on invitation extended to Prime Minister Modi, and these protests turned violent and 4 people died in them. All right, along with this, there is update from conflict in Ethiopia. All right, in the month of November, December, we had discussed this crisis at length. All right, and that Ethiopian troops had moved into Tigray region to fight against TPLF. All right, TPLF and Ethiopia had a history of TPLF being the violent group and Eritrea and Ethiopia fighting a war. That while Abiy Ahmed was able to bridge gaps between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which won him the Nobel Peace Prize in 2019, the conflict between Eritrea and TPLF were never subsidized. All right, and there were calls that Eritrean troops were present in Tigray region and conducting human rights excesses. This recognition has finally come from Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, that yes, these troops were there, they were assisting Ethiopian forces to weed out TPLF, and now they will move back. All right, that they will go back to their borders and Ethiopian forces will guard the border. So this is one recognition and update, that now that Eritrean troops have moved back, that human rights excesses will stop happening in the region. All right, so there is hope for peace in Ethiopia and the Tigray region finally in light of this development. Then on the left hand side, there is interesting update from US. All right, this is regarding voting in United States and how this is done. In India, voting rules, all of it is designed by the Election Commission, which is a constitutional body. In United States, each state has its own election rules. So there is no uniform system of elections in United States. Secondly, there is no universal Election Commission of United States either, which has power to conduct elections in every state. So each state can formulate rules to limit how voting is done, or who can do or how voting is done in USA. All right, Republican Party and Donald Trump had long been against postal ballots and remote voting. All right, so recently Georgia, which was a swing state which Joe Biden flipped, is still governed by Republican Party. In US, two, three things. One, whenever there is an election, there is no holiday declared. Unlike India, whenever there is voting at a particular city or in any elections, it is declared as a holiday. All right, companies or anyone cannot charge you for or make you work on an election day that is supposed to be a holiday, so that you can, without worry of losing salary, go and vote. All right, participate in democracy. Such a system does not exist in USA. Secondly, unlike in India, where Election Commission continuously strives to increase the number of polling stations so that voting is swift and that you don't have to walk more than 400-500 meters to go to a polling booth, in United States, parties who want to reduce voting or not want voting to take place or do not want voters of the opposing party to vote in the election continuously strive to keep on changing poll station locations and reduce the number of polling stations. So what happens is, for example, one, there is no holiday. In US, people earn on per hour basis. If the voting queue is longer, only the rich or the privileged will be able to take out time and stand in queues to vote. Whosoever is poor, needs or earns daily wages will think of earning instead of actually going to vote, all right, or stand in queues. Average time to vote in America in queues is from 3 to approximately 18 hours also sometimes, all right. And now postal ballot was a way out of this, that you would not have to stand, you could just drop in your vote at a ballot box and that would be counted. Now Georgia has taken steps to reduce the number of postal ballots, reduce the time period when you can access postal ballot system. So this is disadvantageous against those who are daily wage workers, and based on the income divide that exists, it is against the non-white voters of America, because white voters are more privileged. They can afford the luxury of standing in queues for longer time period to vote for elections. The poor cannot do so, and that is why this legislation is being called an extension of Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws were those about voting segregation, against which Martin Luther King Jr. had fought the civil rights movement in USA, all right. So Republican parties, because Republican Party is core white voters, has been taking the legislative route to avoid or ensure that their non-voters or voters who do not vote for them are unable to vote in the first place. So this is, and more Republican states are planning similar laws to reduce voting participation in USA. Another step that they have done in this is to not provide free water to those standing in queues. When you are standing in queues, the most basic thing that you can be provided is free water. But even that has now been banned in Georgia. Packaged water is very expensive in USA and Western countries. So free water is the most basic reprieve that is provided to people. When we had demonetization, there were people who were providing free water to those standing in queues for long hours to change their money. But now the government in Georgia has taken step to not provide free water to those who have been standing in queues, all right. So these are steps furthering segregation or reducing voter participation in USA, furthering the divide between Republican and non-Republican Party voters, all right. So this is steps. US elections is part of the current CLAT 2021 cycle, and therefore developments or why these things are done become important for understanding in general for all of you, all right. So make sure if you have any doubts, get it clarified, put them in the comment section. Then moving on the more updates from Egypt's Suez Canal, the ship is still stuck and therefore it is affecting trade in general. India is also planning to Cape of Good Hope, rerouting its vessels from different regions so that it can reduce the overall impact of blockade of Suez Canal, all right. Then apart from that, the timeline of the dispute, all right, not relevant into such details. On the sporting front also, nothing of real note. So I will conclude for the day. If you have any doubts about electoral bonds, minority shareholder oppression, which is NCLAT versus Tata Sons, or voting in USA, put them in the comment section and I will discuss them once again for all of you. All right. So on that note, I will conclude for the day. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and keep the guard up against COVID-19. Thank you.